30. I'm going to call this meeting to order of the Oshtemo Charter Township Regular Board Meeting for December 9th, 2025. And at this time, I welcome you to join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next, we have item 3, an opportunity for remote location identification for remote attendance when permitted by statute. I was notified by Clerk Farmer that she is unable to attend this evening and will not be joining us. And Trustee Cole is traveling and may join us by phone, although should she join us by phone, it would be for discussion only. She would not be permitted to vote by statute. Next, we have item 4, which is the Township Mission, Vision, and Core Values. I welcome a member of this body to share a core value.
Core value decisions are made based on the value to our township and residents.
Thank you, Trustee Chapman. Next, we have item 5, which is approval of the agenda. At this time, is there any member of this body wishing to make changes to the agenda this evening?
Yeah, I would like to add, maybe, since we're talking about streets, and our county commissioner, our road commissioner, our county commissioner is here, but our road commissioner isn't here. I was wondering if we could add down maybe after the master streets plan or before, after the budget amendments, a discussion about the road commission and some items dealing with them and our interactions with them.
I'm happy to add that to the agenda. You could do that during your comment time too. But
No,
you'd rather it be
it's a
board
discussion, yeah.
discussion? Okay,
Please.
so you'd like to amend the agenda after item 15
Sure.
to include a discussion regarding the road commission.
And our interactions with them, but, that's extra.
Sure. Okay.
If there's no other changes, I will move that we approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
A motion by Trustee Sikora, a second by Trustee Ford. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5 with 2 absent. Next, we have item number 6, which is our time on the agenda for public officials and community partner updates. I see we have our county commissioner here. If you have anything you wish to share. He's usually here, actually.
I see you got a decent crowd, so I'll keep this kind of brief. Because when I come up here, I always think, at our last meeting, we discussed and passed 25, 30 different things, and when I come up here, I feel like I don't have anything to tell you. So I'll just give you some highlights from our last meeting. Jim Rutherford, our longtime director for the County Health Department, left and took a job with the state of Michigan. So we're in the process of vetting and hopefully appointing soon a new director for the entire health department for Kalamazoo County. We signed a contract with local company Miller Davis to construct a new parking garage, which will be across the street from the current county administration building. And due to some public interest, I would say, in a Kalamazoo County fair, some people want the old fair back, which at my age, I don't know if that's possible, because everybody, I remember the old fair. I don't know if that's ever going to happen again, but they're going to try. So with the Parks and Recreation Department and the Fair Council actually working closely together, we put out an RFP to see if any company or individual is interested in actually doing the carnival part of the fair. Now, 4-H has been and always will be an integral part of the fair, holding events for the animals and the kids, because it's really a big part of that fair. But they want to try and get back to see if we can have an actual fair. So we're going to see. They have no idea on the cost. We're about to find out. So there's no guarantees, but it's a possibility that maybe even in 2026, there will be a fair. If not, there will always be a 4-H fair. So, and I don't want to keep you any longer. You have any
Thank-
questions?
Does anyone have questions for the commissioner?
All right.
No, thanks. I just, yeah, I'm blanking on the name, supervisor, I forget, at the supervisors meeting, the discussion of the fair took place, and it was very strongly supported that the county do something to move on bringing the fair back, so I think that's great.
Yeah, we'll give it a try, hopefully.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else here who's, I don't see any other elected officials here with us, but any community partners? No? Okay, we'll close item number 6 then and move to item number 7. I'd like to welcome Sarah Mooring, correct?
Mooring Hilt.
Mooring Hilt from Progressive A&E. The board received, and it was included in the packet as a link, the 2 presentations that, well, we heard a presentation and an update at our joint meeting, and then there were 2 additional meetings after that. And Sarah's here to present the draft as it is and take your feedback and questions.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. My name's Sarah Mooring Hilt, and I've spoken with all of you before, but today we're back to do another overview of the 2045 Comprehensive Plan, the special studies that are a part of that plan, and then the Master Streets Plan. So as Sherry mentioned, you all have seen these before, and we've had some discussion, but we wanted to share all the high-level overview again today so we can have our discussion here as a group about each of these plans. So I'm kind of going to just walk us through, first starting with the 2045 Comprehensive Plan, and it just goes through a summary of the chapters, and then we'll do the same for the Master Streets Plan, stopping with times to talk as well. Okay, so for the Comprehensive Plan, a lot of this information you're familiar with, but the main part of our first chapter of that plan is introducing the big ideas that were the motivations for this plan. So we have those listed here, and they follow this format in the implementation section as well. So these ideas are kind of the backbone of all of the recommendations and ideas that were presented in this plan. And I'll read through them one more time, even though we've talked about them quite a bit, but they're important. So for the first one, it's about a connected community begins with a shared sense of belonging for everyone, from newcomers to longtime residents. Our second big idea for the plan was focusing on the demand for housing, that being widespread throughout the country, and that being the same here in Oshtemo as well. Our third one is focusing on how we want to address different scales of commercial uses throughout the township here. So taking a look at how do we not only have large-scale services, but also have more of those local goods. Our fourth objective here is just focusing on how much Oshtemo has grown, and this really ties to our place types that are developed in the plan. Fifth, this really ties into the transportation elements of the plan and figuring out how can we dramatically increase those outcomes. So that's strongly tied to the Master Streets Plan element. And then another thing about this plan effort was that we really drew from all of the previous documents that have taken place, and there was a lot of work and engagement that went into those, so the insights from those are carried forward into this plan. So moving from the introduction, the next portion of the plan talks about the engagement that happened throughout this process. So summary on the left there, we had 9 meetings with our thought leader committee. We had 3 community pop-ups at different areas throughout the township. We had 3 focus group sessions where we brought in different folks from kind of certain groups that we wanted to have specialized discussion about. We had 2 large-scale community gatherings, and then between 2 surveys that we did, we had about 768 responses to those. So just summarizing some of the key findings that came from that engagement, the first one being that People really just want to feel connected to their neighbors. They want to have opportunities to engage and spend time with each other throughout the township, and just figuring out how we can have a sense of place and let people know when they've entered Oshtemo and having those kind of unique to Oshtemo experiences. The second one is that Oshtemo's countryside character, natural features, agriculture are all very important, and there's something that we're going to carry forward and keep that as a steadfast priority for the township going forward. And then the third one that really came out of this is that people really want to see an increase in safety in terms of traffic and transportation throughout the township, and people also voiced wanting to have different options of how they get through the township, be that non-motorized transportation and building on the trails that are happening now. Just included again some pictures of the engagement that took place. And then from all of that initial background research and engagement that happened at the start of the project, we developed our vision and goals for the plan. So essentially these capture all of the different things that we heard, all of the desires for the future that we have, and then from these goals, we build into our place types and our recommendations that are made in the implementation section. So the vision statement that we have here that tries to encompass all of those different things is that Oshtemo is a community designed for everyone. We are connected, adaptable, diverse, creating opportunities for shared experiences and recreation. Future decisions will support balanced growth and quality of life for residents, visitors, and businesses alike. And then just summarizing our different goals that we have here, we have 6 goals in total. Our first goal is about cultivating a strong sense of place and belonging. Our goal 2 is to prioritize housing for all. Goal 3 is to foster a connected, accessible, and resilient transportation system. Goal 4 is to facilitate balanced growth and economic vitality. And then our last 2 goals are to safeguard natural features and environmental health. And then finally, to enhance community well-being and public safety. So as I said, the objectives that are further built out for all of these goals in the plan speak to the coming recommendations for the remainder of the chapter. So that chapter that was influenced by this as well is our Place Matters chapter. So this includes our different place types that have been proposed through this plan. And within the plan, you'll read the detailed descriptions of what we hope to see happen in these areas and kind of the key goals that we'd like to achieve through these place types. So we have 5 primary place types, and then we also included a parks and preservation category just to really highlight where we have existing parks in the community and where we have those natural spaces that we'd like to preserve. Obviously, there's more than just the ones identified on here, but they're largely the park spaces. And then our 2 commercial place type categories are regional corridor and neighborhood mixed use. So they just kind of vary in scale of the commercial uses that we'd like to see, but also how we'd like the walkability and mix of uses to take place in the different commercial settings. And we have 2 housing categories, our neighborhood residential category and countryside residential. Neighborhood residential, as you'll see on the map on the next slide again, is largely focused on the eastern side of the township. It focuses more on small walkable neighborhoods that people are located nearby different goods and services. Our countryside residential one is much more focused on the western portion of the township. It has more of those traditional larger lots that you'll see. And then obviously there's agricultural uses that take place within this category and just has that more rural character feel within that living style. And then our last one is the innovation and industry category. So in this one, it's looking at those different ranges of industrial uses, research, education, all of those things are grouped into that kind of more broad category. This is our place types map that we've looked at together before. One change that I wanted to note, just to make sure everyone here was aware of it as well, from our September 23rd joint board meeting, we shifted this boundary here for the countryside residential to the east to 7th Street as opposed to 6th Street. So that is the most notable change that's happened since that previous meeting. So I wanted to point that out on there. And then moving along from there, we go into our chapter 5, which is quality living. And this is the chapter that really brings in the recommendations from the Go Green Oshtemo plan. So it serves to carry forward those ideas that were presented in Go Green. It has 4 different sections that it goes into based on those recommendations. The first one being celebrating Oshtemo's parks and recreation opportunities, greening our neighborhood and mixed-use areas, so kind of sharing ideas for how we can bring in more tree canopy coverage and how we go about creating those shared green spaces. Oshtemo's countryside landscapes are largely talked about within this chapter in terms of how do we want to preserve those, how do we carry agriculture into the future as well. And then we have the final category that focuses on resilient stormwater practices and low-impact development ideas. And just to note on that as well, since that September 23rd meeting as well, we've added in just additional references for agriculture, as we don't want that to be left behind in this plan. And just to name some of those, we've added agriculture as a land use within the countryside residential category, which was always the intent, but we've added it with the calling out agriculture specifically in there now. We've kind of added an additional section into this quality living chapter that focuses on how can we support Oshtemo's agriculture going into the future, so providing some links to resources that can be utilized, and then just clarifying that the agricultural district will be carried forward into the countryside residential portion, even though it says that it's residential, but the agriculture uses will remain and be brought into the future there as well. All right, so there's 2 more chapters of the comprehensive plan. This one, I just have this slide in here as this chapter 6 ties directly to the master streets plan. So just a summary of the master streets plan is provided within the comprehensive plan and just talks about how it aligns with the comprehensive plan. So they work together, and chapter 6 speaks to that, but we'll talk about the rest of it later when we jump to the master streets plan after this. And then that just brings us to chapter 7, which is our last chapter of implementation. There's a few different pieces to the implementation chapter. The first one is the zoning plan, so talking about what are potential changes that we could make to the zoning ordinance to help bring forward the goals of the comprehensive plan. And just a graphic here showing how the comprehensive plan translates to the zoning ordinance, our place types map transitions to the zoning map over time, and then our future land use categories can influence the zoning districts. Another piece of that plan of the implementation section here is sharing recommendations for different projects that we can do to achieve the goals of the plan. So those are all highlighted within the plan itself, categorized by the big ideas as we talked about before. But one of the more primary and exciting ones that we have included in here is the idea of creating a township hub here in this township location. And this is something that just initial concepts and ideas have been jotted down, but something that we'll have more discussions going forward. But just this is kind of what the implementation section is comprised of, is what actions can we take to bring the goals into realities. So I'm going to pause there before I get into the special studies, which live as kind of a subsection of the comprehensive plan itself. Is there anything anyone wanted to talk about the comprehensive plan?
I mean, I think, just any board members have any questions? I mean, we've seen this a few times. I think what would be interesting to hear is this project started in May of 2023?
Yeah, I believe so, or June, early June, one of the two.
Yeah, it might have
Yeah.
been June. So, any idea how many hours worth of meetings, or Jody?
Oh, boy. I would be a guess. I would be giving you a guess, but we've spent a lot of time together getting this to where it is today. I think we, probably 100.
Oh, more than that, I bet.
At
Yeah.
least. Yeah, it's been a lot of time and work that's gone into it, absolutely.
So I just want to reflect that literally every sentence of this document has been reviewed by multiple people multiple times. So thank you for leading us through that. It was a lot of work.
Of course, thank you. It's been a good project.
I do have one
Yes.
question. You made a point of responding to the previous meeting where we talked about agriculture in particular. Is there a listing in the document of like how much ag, like percentage of the township, how much industry is percentage or
Yes.
total?
I don't have it included in this PowerPoint, but there is an existing land use map that's included, and it breaks down the percentages of the existing uses. Yeah, I believe it's in chapter 1.
Okay, thank you. I was trying to find it.
There's a lot of pages to look through. Okay, I will carry us into our special studies just so we can get through everything I have here. So as I mentioned before, the special studies, we originally had them included in the body of the comprehensive plan, but we wanted to just separate them so they could stand on their own outside of the plan, but they still go hand in hand together. And basically what the special studies serve to do is that they allowed us to take a more specialized look at a few different areas throughout the township, because they either had specific challenges going on there or they related and could be, the ideas from these special studies could be carried into different areas of the township as well. So I know it's small to see on this map here, but we brought forward 2 sub-area plans from the 2011 and 2017 master plans. So those are included in the document as well. And basically, we carried them forward because they're ideas that are still being built upon and that are still in the works, so we brought those forward. And then there's 3 new special studies that happened with this comprehensive plan effort. So those are the 3 that I'm going to walk through with us here. The first special study that we took a look at is the Maple Hill Pavilion Mall site. And this one is largely centered around the concept of suburban retrofitting. So it took a look at this area here outlined in the image. And we wanted to focus on this because it's just an underutilized land in a location with robust existing infrastructure in proximity to green space with the Drake Farmstead Park. There's opportunity for transit and existing transit in the area. And then figuring out how we could have more internal access take place here. So it served as a good example for us to build from. This area specifically, in terms of our place types category, falls in the residential corridor place type. And that place type does call for more of that dense mixed-use redevelopment and figuring out how we can have those amenities that are present within regional corridors alongside additional housing development. So an initial plan that we have included here proposes some of those different ideas for the site. So largely, much of the existing infrastructure and buildings remain, but we've added some housing options into this back existing paved space, so making use of that underutilized cement coverage there. And then it brings in opportunities for some driveway closures and internal circulation to take place, so it achieves that goal of how could we bring in more uses to the underutilized parking space that exists, and then especially bringing in housing to that back paved area that is underutilized at this time. So a lot more of the details are included within the special studies themselves, but I just wanted to give an overview of how this one serves as our suburban retrofitting example that can ideally be applied to different locations as well, but specifically here. The second of our 3 special studies runs from H Avenue to Croydon Avenue. And a large focus of this study itself is focusing on neighborhood design. So this is just a bit north of that previous study that we took a look at. And this one again was chosen because it's similar to a lot of different neighborhood residential areas that exist throughout the township. So something that could be applied here, but then brought to other places as needed as well. Again, it's really close by to shopping and transit. It's served by municipal infrastructure, and it has that large areas of undeveloped land that can serve the housing need for the township. So again, tying back to the place types map of the comprehensive plan, we have neighborhood residential and neighborhood mixed use categories within this stretch of land. There's also Kalamazoo that cuts through in the middle there. But essentially, going back to neighborhood residential, this is a way that we really want to bring in more housing opportunities at some differing scales and differing price points. So in here, it would be building out neighborhoods that are nearby the regional corridor and having that mixed-use element where there's housing alongside different smaller scale and large-scale commercial uses, kind of promoting that walkability and utilizing land that's nearby existing amenities. And then as I mentioned, this one focuses heavily on neighborhood design and how we can bring in different housing types. So within the special study, it details these different potential examples of housing types. and then that there could be a range from 8 to 25 dwelling units per acre. So again, with the neighborhood residential, it's very context sensitive based on what is the existing area like, what can this existing piece of land take on, but it focuses again on bringing in those missing middle housing types and then supporting small-scale commercial and public amenities nearby. And then our final of the 3 special studies is in the Lodge Lane to West Main area. And a large focus of this special study is working with different environmental features in an area. Specifically, there were soils and slopes that were present in the area that made it a good place to put in some extra study. So like I said, it has those topographic constraints. It lacks some of that street connectivity that we're looking for. And then a piece of this study specifically that we focused on as well was how could we have these regional stormwater ponds that work as a system and address some of the issues that are taking place in this area. So that's one piece of it. And I don't expect you to be able to see everything on this map here, but it speaks to how we'd like to introduce that roadway connectivity throughout the area, and then what those different intersections are going to look like. And then a final piece of the Lodge Lane study too begins taking a look at access management. So just recommending, based on the speed limit, what is the recommended driveway spacing, and hopefully that's something too that we could carry on to different areas of the corridor. Okay, so those are our 3 special studies, and then from there we'll go into the Master Streets Plan. Anything there?
Any questions regarding the special studies?
All right. Take a sip of my water real quick. Okay, so the final piece of our different plans here is the Master Streets Plan. And this was last discussed at the previous Planning Commission meeting, and we've talked about it as a group here as well. But just as a reminder, the intent of this Master Streets Plan is really to work alongside the comprehensive plan. So it builds on land use and mobility are really what make a place. So the comprehensive plan serves as that land use element, and then the Master Streets Plan serves as that mobility and safety component. So really just focusing on how the design choices that we make do impact the function and feel of our places. So working with land use and transportation to create the future Oshtemo that we'd like to see. So again, for this plan, I've just broken it down by chapter with a high-level summary of what's spoken about in each of the chapters. But as I mentioned, this plan itself builds from the comprehensive plan, and one of the main goals of the comprehensive plan is to foster a connected, accessible, and resilient transportation system. So this plan serves to build on that comprehensive plan goal. Another large motivation for the Master Streets Plan itself, and we'll get into this more in Chapter 2, but there have been a lot of safety and crashes and issues that we'd like to address to make Oshtemo a safer place for people that are traveling in it. And that was really a strong motivation of this plan, to figure out how can we do something different to have better outcomes in the future. So just some stats that we've talked about before here, but there were 560 non-freeway crashes in Oshtemo Township in 2024. Oshtemo makes up about one-third of all crashes in the county. And building from that, about 20% of the severe, which are fatal or serious injury crashes on Road Commission roads occurred in Oshtemo, despite Oshtemo just being 10% of the population. And then finally, out of the 10 intersections with the highest amounts of crashes in Kalamazoo County, 7 of those are located in Oshtemo. So really what we'd like to do with this plan is just set a vision for how we can change those statistics going forward. And it's intended to be proactive and utilized in discussions with the Road Commission or anyone else going forward about what the goals for Oshtemo are, so that we can make changes that bring us to a closer, higher safety vision. So Chapter 2 really goes more into what I was speaking about there. It dives into the specific crash data for Oshtemo. So it shows, again, a lot of these things that we've talked about before, but just figuring out where crashes are happening, how many crashes are happening, who's involved in the crashes that are taking place, what severity are they, and Chapter 2 really dives into that. you can see on this map here, it talks about the different fatal injuries, serious injuries, and then all crashes, and it identifies those different intersections that were spoken about previous, and just tailors these to recommendations that are made throughout the plan, takes into consideration where these crashes are taking place. Chapter 3 of the Master Streets Plan recommends different ways that we can build that safe, resilient network. And one of the primary elements of the Master Streets Plan is that it's really encouraging a paradigm shift. So we'd like to just kind of change the tone and have a plan to fall back on that really exemplifies what we'd like to see take place in Oshtemo. So that's switching from roads being designed only for fast-moving passenger cars, bringing in ideas of how can we have pedestrians and cyclists, public transportation, and still cars as well. But how can we have those kind of work together in the system? And then just building infrastructure that is built for people. And a large part of that is shifting from roads being designed for more rural transport to be taking into account that Oshtemo is largely a more suburban place. So figuring out we need to make that shift with our roads as well. One of the changes that I wanted to call out is on the key connections map. So West WH Avenue was changed from a key arterial to a collector. These are kind of some more of the nitty-gritty details, but I wanted to include it in here as well. And then just figuring out that proposed connections here are intended to provide a high-level framework for future development. And then obviously specific street alignment will be highly examined and taken into consideration going forward, but this just sets the tone for where we'd like to see that high-level framework take shape. And then one last addition that has been made to the Master Streets Plan is there was work done surrounding proposed plans for Atlantic Avenue. So we've added in reference to the work that happened for that as well, as it ties into the street network of Oshtemo. So we wanted to make sure that that was included in the Master Streets Plan. And then Chapter 4 is very similar to the Comprehensive Plan's Chapter 4. It again brings up our map here and assigns different street typologies to the different roads throughout Oshtemo. So you'll see here the place types map is on the base layer of this, and then the different street typologies are overlaid on top of the place types. So just showing how we'd like to see different road design based on the context of where that road is and the land uses that are surrounding it. So for each of those different street typologies, again, similar to the place types, we have different recommendations that are included for sidewalk elements, roadway elements, adjacent land uses, and then all in conjunction with each other. And then even further from that, we also have cross-sections that are included within the plan document. So it shows just a spread across the road of what we'd like to see ideally take place for these different street typologies. And there's been a few changes that have been made since the last iteration of this document. The first one being that for the neighborhood connectors, we've reflected the recommendation of off-street bike facilities. And then for neighborhood streets, it's reflected the recommendation of one sidewalk and one off-street shared use path. It's just a small change that's been made to these cross-sections. Chapter 5 is our multimodal toolbox. And within this chapter, it talks about different safety countermeasures. So these icons here essentially are built upon throughout this whole chapter in the way that this example here is. So for the pedestrian hybrid beacon, it speaks about the safety benefits, reduction in pedestrian crashes, and all of the benefits of utilizing this safety countermeasure. And the same goes forward for the different icons that are included here. So this chapter is a place where we can turn to look for recommendations of how we can improve safety. Another element of that chapter is the proposed non-motorized network. So there's different notes on here of proposed intersection improvements to increase safety, proposed non-motorized facilities, and then existing, so the Calhaven Trail is included in here as well. And then obviously there's a different, there are non-motorized facilities in Oshtemo that are built into this network as well. And then finally, again, following the comprehensive plan format, there are recommendations and implementation strategies included within the Master Streets Plan. And essentially the format that this was done for the Master Streets Plan, it uses a project prioritization framework. So it talks through the different criteria for the project, scoring for it, and then we have those projects listed throughout the implementation section based on their score. So just an example of what one of those projects looks like is introducing non-motorized shared use paths in accordance with recommendations from Go Green Oshtemo at the following locations. It talks about where those could take place and includes their project score. And then, as I mentioned again, there's various projects included throughout the implementation section of the Master Streets Plan that follow this same format. And that is the last of my slides. That's all that I've got here. So now we can just talk through any questions that you might have. We'll go from there.
This is great. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
One question I have is, can you pull up the land use map, or the slide that had
Yes.
most of that? And maybe this has already been discussed, or it's too far in the weeds, I don't know, so stop me if it is. But
That's okay.
the question is, when we look at that land use and we talk about neighborhood residential and its expansion kind of to the west, how are we to think about that in conjunction with the infrastructure to enable it?
Yeah, so a lot of the place types map was informed by existing infrastructure for water and sewer and proposed planned water and sewer. So it takes that into account with the place types on here.
Okay, so if I look at that where we're serving and planning to serve, and that it should
Yeah,
overlay
yeah.
fairly well. Okay,
Yeah,
that was
that's-
just my concern as I saw down further to the south that neighborhood residential was creeping further to the west. I don't recall us having those plans to extend sewer, so, unless I'm wrong. On like down Stadium, KL, those areas?
Correct. Yeah, that's why it doesn't go too far north. If you're familiar with it's called we call it the Ridge in the Public Works Department, but it's going to be a big challenge for topography to get sewer extended that far in the township. So
And
it's.
that ridge is roughly where?
It kind of follows if you go down 7th Street on the map
Okay.
and where the little stairs are, and then
Oh,
it would
okay, just follow
probably.
this contour.
Yeah, but it would probably connect right where Sarah's cursor just was
Mm-hmm.
on KL, where the yellow bends in. It probably comes a little bit more on an angle towards the corner of 4th and
Okay.
M.
And then west of that boundary, if you will, the topography, the gravity becomes challenging to move.
Yeah, it
back
gets.
to the east, is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I mean, we have dry sewer in 6th Street, so.
Okay.
We can definitely get there. We have we have designed sewer down KL, mostly to the Autumn Grove neighborhood,
Okay,
and some of that topography would work where we have some existing lift stations planned. So, we could get it there. I think it's important, kind of to Sarah's point, is that, as we plan out these projects, we've known they take a while to get the funding and get them designed and then get them built. If we're gonna go through that process, then part of, as engineers, we review it and make sure that it's financially feasible and that it's gonna get used and that it's providing that value and benefit if we're gonna make that investment. So we would be looking at KL Avenue and say, how many connections would a sewer there be providing,
Right.
or is there a need because an existing neighborhood has small lots and they don't have a long-term solution? So those are some of the ways we would use this when we're planning projects and a road is getting reconstructed and we ask, well, should we add sewer now or water now? We would look at those things.
okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Trustee Sikora?
No, I have nothing further. Thanks.
Oh.
Sorry to let you down.
Well, it looked like you were reaching for your button earlier. That's why I thought you had something to say. Trustee Chapman?
No, I just thank you for the incorporation of many of the ideas that were brought up at planning and that our citizens brought up. You did a very good job incorporating that, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, absolutely.
Treasurer?
No, I don't have any questions. I've watched the planning meetings and their full presentations in there. And I'm, glad to see that in some of the discussions, like the agricultural issue that has been brought forward, it's not something I had to ask, has it? I could see it has, so I'm satisfied with that.
Great. I just want to say it's a great plan, and it is to 2045. So some of these lines are kind of visions of where we think things are happening. So I just want to point that out as well. And then I know when you were talking that you used the term "we," and I want to make sure I understand it when you say "we." We is from your perspective as the consultant hired to lead this project. We is really the input of the residents and the pop-up activities
Absolutely.
and the recommendations of staff and resident feedback and the surveying. And so we isn't Progressive A&E said, this is what we want.
Absolutely.
We is, our community provided feedback and it drove the direction.
Absolutely, yeah. In many ways, the community, the conversations we have with staff and community, that's what really writes the plan. So we take that all with us and then we put it into the document. But yeah, we as the larger community, staff, and everyone that we spoke with throughout the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Absolutely.
You didn't just put your eyes on our map and say, this is what we think.
For
This is
sure.
built off of feedback and committee work.
Absolutely.
The other thing that came up in a past conversation, and I think it's like understanding the difference between a comprehensive master plan and how it fits into the tools that the township uses for plans in the future, and that it's a vision and a roadmap, but it is not a concrete document that this is how things will roll out. And I say that because there was a meeting where, I think it was on the proposed land uses, where someone made that, well, that's running right up the middle of my property. And so these are visioning documents. I guess, so can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say very similar to what Anna was saying in terms of when a new road is being built, you'd refer back to the document here to say, does this make sense for us to put this on here? So same for land use. Say that an area is proposed to be rezoned, someone would like to change it to a different zoning category. The township then has the comprehensive plan to look back on and say, is this something that we planned for happening in this location? Does it make sense for us to change this to a new zoning category? So it serves as a guide when future decisions are being made, so that the township can look back at this document and all the work that they put into it and say, did we anticipate this happening in this location? Did we speak to the community about this happening in this location? And it just works to form future decisions for different zoning changes or different developments. This serves as a guide for, is this something we anticipated happening?
Yeah, thanks, because I think it can feel, because it's so comprehensive.
Yeah.
It can, I think, appear as like somehow this body or a particular planning commissioner, whoever, is like, this is where these things are going to go. And it's really a guide. And we can see in day-to-day practice where if you have somebody coming in wanting to do a project, one of the first things that Public Works and Planning does is goes back to our current master plan and compares the request to what was envisioned at the master plan level. And then these are required. Can you talk about the state requirements for this document?
Yeah, so master plan, a comprehensive plan, has to be reviewed every 5 years so that it stays up to date. So this plan here is intended to serve until 2045, but that's not to say that over time, it won't be changed. So every 5 years, the township is required to check in and see if an update is necessary. They could say everything looks accurate still based on the conditions of today, and we'll maintain it as it is. Sometimes that 5-year check-in warrants a full rewrite of the plan, and sometimes that check-in says, there's a few things that have changed since the adoption of this plan. What can we change to better reflect what's happening in Oshtemo for the future? So it is required, and every 5 years, it has to be reviewed to see, has anything changed that needs to be updated in this document?
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I don't have, does anyone else have any final comments or questions? No? All right.
All right.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, everybody.
So we have a few minutes. We will take this item back up. Actually, Planning Director, would you mind speaking to, I mean, this is agenda item 14, but where we'll have more discussion and consideration, but can you talk about what the next steps are for this plan, please?
Sure, absolutely, I would be happy to. Well, the next step is, this is coming to you from your planning commission. They had the lengthy presentations that looks like you all watched on October 23rd and November 13th. And as the consultants walked through these planning documents, they would pause and there would be discussion or questions with the planning commission. And they reached the point after the presentation on the 13th and the discussion and then, of course, public comment at both those meetings, that they unanimously voted to send this forward to this body to approve commencing the 63-day public comment period. And that is in the Planning Enabling Act. An amendment is 45 days, but a new plan like this document requires at least 63 days. And at the beginning of that 63 days, again, it's in the law, we have to send a link or a hard copy, if you're old school, of these planning documents to the Road Commission, to the school district, to Kalamazoo County, to water, sewer, gas, electric companies, the railroad, Road Commission, and every unit of government that touches us. So Kalamazoo Township, Kalamazoo City, Almena, Alamo, Texas, and the like. So that is a requirement, and then once we get that out, then the 63 days can start. And then the Planning Commission will hold a public hearing sometime in 2026 after that 63-day public comment period is over. And we'll take all the comments we received then and more that we might receive at the public hearing at the Planning Commission and decide if additional changes are needed to the document. And then when it gets to this board, you might find minor changes are still necessary, but once it's adopted, it's in final format until we open it up for a formal amendment process in the future. At least at the 5-year point, if not sooner.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Any questions for the planning director on the next steps of the process? No? So we're rounding the bend.
Yes.
We can see the goal line.
Well, then the real work starts,
Right.
because then we start working towards implementation. And there's a huge implementation chart in the comprehensive plan, and the tasks are prioritized. And then we know the first thing we're going to do, because we have a grant from the state of Michigan, is to start working on zoning ordinance amendments to help achieve this vision.
Which will be the next major hurdle for the planning department. Hopefully, it will make things cleaner and clearer.
Yes, our zoning ordinance has a lot of room for improvement and clarity, getting rid of conflicting and confusing sections, consolidating our industrial districts. We don't need 4, we'll probably recommend consolidating the residential districts like the master plan or comprehensive plan speaks to.
Thank you. Well, if there are no other questions for Jody. No? Okay.
Okay.
Well, we have a couple different directions we can go, folks. You just need to let me know. We can take our break a little early and come back to regular session at 6:30. Or if somebody has something on the agenda here at the dais that you want to speak, talk through, does anybody have any questions on budget amendments or any other items that, we can have a little discussion before we tackle it on the regular session? No? Okay. Well, then, I'm going to call this meeting adjourned until 6:30, and we will reconvene and start with item number 8. Thank you. All right. It's currently 6:30, and we will call this meeting back to order. And we will be picking up on item number 8, which is public comment on consent agenda or non-regular session items. So now is the time if you want to speak to something that's within the consent agenda or is not listed in the regular session, now would be your opportunity to speak to those things. Yeah, please.
So this would be to address just a general statement or question? It's not germane necessarily to anything I see on your consent?
Correct.
Cameron Brown, 2037 Quail Cove Drive, Kalamazoo, Oshtemo Township. And to you, Madam Chair, and your fellow trustees, thank you again for all of your good efforts in advancing the cause of good government on behalf of the people of Oshtemo Township. Much appreciated. 2 questions. 1, have you given any thought to introducing and passing a resolution memorializing our state legislature to repeal Public Act 233? 2, have you given any thought, following your own studied research, of forwarding a list of concerns to the Planning Commission regarding the proposed battery facility?
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Hello.
Good evening. My name is Katie Schneider, and I want to thank you for presenting the master plan tonight. Sounds a lot like Portage or Grand Rapids, but I guess that's where we're at. I want to address directly how the master plan must guide the energy ordinance for battery energy storage systems. But first, I'm curious which board members read the full 210-page master plan before the meeting. I know we've spent about $20,000 to $30,000 a month working with outside firms to develop this for us. Sounds like we took about 18 months to do this. And I definitely expect the same type of work going into the energy system ordinance as well. It's a lot more than trees or sidewalks. It's our lives, it's our backyards, and it's our safety. And I certainly expect that. Our 2045 master plan is crystal clear on several important points when it comes to large-scale BESS. That plan that we just heard about includes to protect residential neighborhoods from incompatible industrial uses. It also includes to direct intense uses to industrial districts where the infrastructure exists. It also includes to safeguard groundwater resources, to ensure emergency services can support the use, and to study emerging technologies before siting them. An industrial battery energy storage system in the middle of 7 neighborhoods violates every single one of those principles that are in that 210-page master plan. We cannot leave this issue unregulated and just hope it works out. Residents have spoken overwhelmingly. BESS must be restricted to industrial zoning districts only, and our master plan supports that. This is not prohibition, it is a compatible land use decision. It aligns with the master plan, it maintains public safety, and it ensures the township meets its legal obligation to protect residents. PA 233 does not force the township to put industrial energy storage systems into residential neighborhoods, or what we're now going to refer to as countryside residential, or even agriculture zone districts. There's many names for it. It belongs in industrial, none of those. It only prevents blanket bans. Zoning BESS into industrial area is fully allowed. So tonight, I'm asking the board to follow the master plan that we've spent 18 months working on and quite a bit of money. Evaluate this technology properly, align the ordinance with your own land use policies, and restrict industrial scale BESS to industrial zones where it belongs. That would be the responsible and consistent path forward. And let there be no misunderstanding. We do not want these batteries in our backyards. Thank you.
Is there anyone else?
Gary DeBryan, Oshtemo Township. Just wanted you to consider one thing. When I was looking in the hallway at the discussion about the moratorium and the ordinance for large-scale battery systems, it indicated that the ordinance is built to provide the health, safety, and welfare of the residents, to ensure that. I think we've made it clear that large-scale battery systems have nothing to do with health, safety, and welfare. I mean, they are horrendous when they fail, and they fail often. So I'm not sure why we're writing an ordinance. If you have our backs and don't want this in Oshtemo Township, we should not be writing an ordinance. We should be simply saying, we don't want this here, and we don't have an ordinance to cover it. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. Laura Gothi, Oshtemo Township. My husband and I, with our children, moved from Portage to rural Oshtemo in 2002. We decided to take the opportunity to build on our property on M Avenue. We love nature and have enjoyed all the years of owning and caring for our livestock as we continue to do so. It's truly a blessing to see a coyote family plodding down the path with their pup, sandhill cranes courting, a bald eagle making his presence known to the crows. There are countless animals that make their home on our property: deer, fox, owls, hawks, the threatened eastern box turtle, and even a fisher, to name a few, all of which would be endangered from the fallout of a best fire. You see, God calls us to be stewards of the earth, which means taking care of that which has been entrusted to us. God calls us to be mindful of the environment, treating nature with respect and care. We have a responsibility towards creation, and we need to recognize that the earth is a gift from God that we need to nurture. God has given us so much beauty for us to enjoy. Let us preserve it and be good stewards of it. You as a township board have been elected by the people to serve them, not companies that want to destroy our land. You have the power to help prevent pests from entering our community. This is not a good thing for Oshtemo. I hope and pray that you can see this. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment right now? Welcome.
Katie Meyer Tupper, Oshtemo Township. I'm here again. Hi. I've spoken with some of you on the board, and thank you for that. I do appreciate your time. And in my speaking with you, I do know that you have heart and that you care. I do. I've done more research for you, pro bono. You're welcome, Oshtemo. Finally using my environmental degree. But I've done so much research that I'm actually going to be writing a paper about it, because 3.5 hours on the phone with Moss Landing, one resident, I'm not even going to barely scratch the surface here. So I'm going to do a little bit of what I've learned. So Cheryl Davidson, not all this paper, this is a different one. Cheryl Davidson's a different survivor, and I'm going to read what she wrote me. Cheryl Davidson here, a survivor of the Moss Landing lithium battery fire. I was 7.8 miles away, but the toxic smoke still sickened me and contaminated my property. The aftermath has been devastating, and I am still dealing with the health impacts. Don't let this happen to your community. Lithium battery storage facilities aren't as safe as they seem. I've seen the devastating effects firsthand, and I'm here to tell you there are better, safer alternatives. Don't trust the companies. Trust your community and your own research. And if I were you guys, I would trust your environmental biologist who's doing it for free. Anyway, if a company tells you their facility is safe, and ask them about Moss Landing. We thought ours was safe too, until it wasn't. Don't be fooled by the claims of new technology or safety measures. Lithium battery fires are unpredictable and they are devastating. And don't fall for claims that a smaller building configuration is safer or smaller setup of the batteries. We've had fires in those too, multiple times. The risks are real, the consequences are devastating. Don't let them downplay the dangers or convince you that their facility is safer. We tested our properties and found heavy metals from the batteries up to 30 miles away. What's 30 miles away, guys? So if you're in Portage, you don't live in Oshtemo, still coming for you. 30 miles is quite an area. So I'm just telling you, that's huge, 30 miles away. A local geologist found them 1,000 times higher than normal in their marine sanctuary. These toxins don't just disappear, they contaminate our air, water, and soil, and they're in our bodies. We're fighting for change, pushing for local ordinances to protect our communities. We need laws that keep these facilities away from schools, hospitals, and agricultural land. And they should have to provide their own firefighting resources because these fires are unlike anything else. And watch out for companies that claim they'll be a good neighbor. They'll use our water for cooling, but can't even recycle their own wastewater. Something's fishy here. I'm sharing my story to help others. Educate yourselves, and don't let this happen to your community. There are way better ways to store energy. Visit neveragainmosslanding.org to learn more. That's just one. I could go on all night, but I won't. I'm just letting you know that I've done the research. I'm doing it for free. I have a baby at home. I care. I know you guys care. I know some of you really care. But you got to do what's right, and you got to do morally what's right and what your parents taught you to do, what's right and what's wrong. And I don't know how much money is waived here, but the Moss Landing people, their township was offered $1 million a year. $1 million a year for what? Lifetime problems? I know you don't want that for your kids. I know you don't. So I'm just urging you, you are elected to be representing us for safety.
Time, Ms. Tupper, thank you.
Do what's right.
We have anyone else wishing to make public comment?
Rob Morrison, Oshtemo Township. I appreciate the website you put up with resources because I think that is important for people to know and share. And I hope that you get suggestions from the community as well for sources because there are a lot of people who have been researching this. And one of the things I noticed on it is that you had a section where it said that, well, there are only realistic options for us to pursue. These are really legal options, they're not realistic. So I'd like you to kind of reframe and rethink that because they are legal options, and while that's important to take into consideration, they're not the only ones. And looking at PA 233, I was not a resident in Michigan when that passed, so I don't really know what the history was, but it seems to me that that was probably written by the industry. And the industry really develops its own set of standards and best practices. Every industry does that. And I know last month there was discussion amongst the council members about, best practices and with the agendas and how you are responsible for using that. And I understand that. But best practices sometimes aren't the most effective practices. And if the best practices are written by the industry, it's only going to benefit that industry. And when I look at the best practices that the state of Michigan is allowing, and that's really another problem, is that the state is really trying to bring these, data centers and battery centers and others into the state to create jobs, but it's really misguided, I think. I was really shocked when I saw that, that this just violates all the health and common sense, quite frankly, that I've seen. And I think that we really need to reframe this and look at this. So I think you have a responsibility to think about it. If you believe, and I hope that you do not support the battery centers and data centers, that you say, well, we just don't want to hear it doesn't fit with our master plan, it just does harm. And we have plenty of evidence on this planet to show that It does, and that solar power can work, but it can also work effectively and safely as well, and that's what we should be doing. So I really want you to consider that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? There'll be another opportunity later as well. Okay, with that, I'll close public comment at this time, and we will move to item number 9, which is the consent agenda, which consists of the meeting minutes from the regular meeting of November 25th, 2025, the receipts and disbursements report, and the listing of the 2026 depositories. Do you have any members of this board wishing to remove any items from the consent agenda? Not, I would take a motion.
So
Motion. Support.
A motion by trustee Sikora, support by trustee Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5 with 2 absent. Next, we have item number 10. This is a memo presented in your packet. We have our Deputy Chief Burkhart here to present this, and we will have discussion and possible consideration.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. I'm coming before you tonight with this memo requesting that 48 hours of PTO be reimbursed to Captain Adam Bennett and driver-operator Josh Lauer. Following the tragic and unexpected death of their crew member, I had the opportunity to talk to them immediately following and the day before their shift. After talking to them, I determined that they were unfit for duty due to their emotional wellness, and I excused them from work under the, now I know, false impression that it was covered under bereavement leave. So in good faith, I excused them from work. They used 48 hours of their PTO, and when we got back, well, let me back up. When the dust settled and the funeral was over, we started looking at the policies in the contract, and we found out that, in fact, a crew member is not covered under bereavement leave. So I'm requesting that their 48 hours of leave be reimbursed, or PTO be reimbursed, as it was not a mistake of their fault. It was their leadership, represented by me, that made the mistake.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Are there any questions for the Deputy Chief on this
so-
matter?
So the ask is to reimburse the PTO. Are we going to correct this so that there's better, broader latitude to?
So so the answer to your question is yes, but it's not going to happen, the policy change isn't going to happen at this meeting.
Got it. Okay. Yep, I would support making this happen and then codifying it so that we can have bereavement for folks in this situation in the future, God forbid.
Absolutely. You know, crew members, having worked EMS for many years, your crew member's your family. And it needs to be treated the same. That is about as close a family as you can get. You depend on each other for your lives. So absolutely, this needs to be fixed, and I apologize that we didn't see this coming.
Thank you. Any other questions?
No, totally support.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do you want to have any board discussion, or?
Do we need to make a motion to?
We do. This actually needs action because it's outside of the policy, so in order to do this,
I make the motion to approve the request for PTO reimbursement for Captain Adam Bennett and driver-operator Josh Lauer.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sikora.
No,
I'm sorry, trustee Chapman.
I mean, I would have, but he beat me to it.
All right, we have a motion and a second at this time. If you would like to make public comment on this item, now would be the time to make public comment on item number 10. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. We have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Chapman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5 with 2 absent. Thank you. And I've already had conversations with the chief and the HR director, and so we'll be looking at some options to bring that policy forward and take a look at how we define bereavement and who's eligible. Next, we have item number 11, which is discussion and consideration regarding the West Ridge Site condominium. We've seen this project before, but I think the planning director will present on what is the next step.
Sure. This neighborhood is just across the street from where we sit tonight. It's a 39-unit, single home per lot development by, Green Development Ventures, a subsidiary, I'll say, of Allen Edwin Homes. You've seen this a couple times. Step 1 was brought to you in 2024. That's where you confirmed with the Planning Commission's recommendation that the proposed lots meet our minimum requirements for the zoning district. So these lots have water and sewer. And then step 2 is when the developer comes in and they've got the road design, the water, the sewer design, gets blessed by the utility agencies and the township engineering staff for those designs, and then it's kind of a rubber stamp at this board because you have all these experts behind the scenes that have made sure the drawings have met the code requirements. And then, so then they construct between step 2 and step 3, and then step 3, a developer of a plat or a site condominium like this comes back with the as-built drawings for everything that is in place. The road's been built, the water, sewer's installed, gas, electric, et cetera. So that's where they are right now with this project. Sidewalk has been built along any piece of open space in the community that's not abutting a home site. As the homes are built, they'll build the sidewalks. The path along West Main Street was put in this past fall. And you'll recall when we brought this forward for the TIF proposal that we are going to capture as a township some of the taxes generated on this development to connect that path going east towards where the sidewalk ends in front of Menards, and then going west to 7th Street. So the residents on 7th Street, residents of this neighborhood will have an ability to walk along West Main. If they want, they can go all the way to downtown Kalamazoo, really, just because of the connectivity that will be provided when this segment is built. There were a few concerns that Public Works and Planning found on a walkthrough in November, but they're not unusual items and they can be addressed, provided they're, a condition of approval. Some of it, like some of the stormwater outlets, need to be cleaned out, repair and replace some silt fencing at various points in the development because it has fallen down or gotten backed up with silt. There's a couple ADA compliant ramps that need to be addressed and some markings for the crosswalk. So they're really minor things. So it wouldn't be unusual to bring a project forward for step 3 in the winter when some of the final items to be completed are weather dependent. So Planning and Public Works staff came up with the recommended conditions of approval, and some of them say, well, we want this to be done before the first building permit is issued. It's not weather dependent. There's other items to be completed before we give our first certificate of occupancy, because those are weather dependent and it would be more appropriate to wait until spring to make those corrections. And John Lovely from the development company is here, and he sat through our wonderful presentations tonight. And so I don't know if he has any words to add to this.
Good evening, trustees. My name is John Lovely, Allen Edwin Homes, Green Development Ventures, LLC. First, just wanted to thank the township staff for all the assistance through the process of getting this project reviewed and approved and now built. So we're kind of here at the last step before we can start building homes, and I can tell you we're all very excited to start building our first homes in here. If this all gets approved tonight, we do intend to start building in January and February, our first round of homes. We expect it to build out pretty quickly too. So, and again, the staff has been very helpful, from Jody to Colton, Anna, Zach, Sharon. Everyone has been very helpful in getting us to this point. So, as Jody mentioned, there are a couple things that haven't been wrapped up. They're all very weather dependent, and we're actually going to get it done until the snow hit a little bit early. So we appreciate staff working with us to kind of put together a plan to bond for some items and then get a time frame for those other items to be completed first thing in the spring. So happy to answer any questions, but most of all, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Once the silt fencing and the debris are removed from the retention basins, did the debris buildup happen because of the construction that was happening?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Who's going to maintain those basins after development is complete?
Those are privately owned and maintained by the HOA, so the
HOA.
developer will maintain it until it's completely turned over to the HOA.
And then the HOA collectively will
Yes.
own and operate that. Thank you.
Any other questions for the applicant or for our planning director?
I have a question for the planning director. Could you explain what a private street is versus a public street?
Private streets will be owned and operated by the homeowners association, where if these are public streets, they would be turned over as part of the step 3 process to the Road Commission of Kalamazoo County.
So if I was walking down West Main on this nice path, can I walk on that private road? Or is that going to be a,
Yeah,
members only or whatever?
No,
sign?
those private streets are open to the public. In fact, those 2 cul-de-sacs you see on the right of the screen, which is north, those could be extended to the future, in the future. And the utilities that are in place are in a public easement, so.
And then in the case here with snow, who does the snow on the streets? Is it the homeowners association?
They'll hire a contractor,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
And I should add, for the benefit of the public, because I did say there are things that are outstanding and it's not unusual for a project that wraps up in the winter, is that they will be providing a bond to the township in the amount of $176,000 as a guarantee that they'll come back and do these outstanding items.
Which leads right into my question. So a surety bond is basically ensuring that if they don't do it, we have the funds to do it for them, correct?
Right.
In your statement, it says that that is for materials only. Would it be appropriate, and I guess I'm looking down the table to legal, to be inclusive of hiring a contractor to do those in addition to just materials?
I don't know how the amount was calculated. I know Colton worked with the developer. Does that include? Okay.
So the values that were put on the proposed bond amount, which you see in your packet, are all directly from our contracts with the developer, with our excavator and other, we've got concrete people, Remington is who we work with. So those are all direct contract values. They include materials and labor. And those, these numbers that you guys see are actually elevated by 10% in case those costs don't hold in the next spring.
Okay, thank you.
We've got guarantees that they will, but in case you
It
ever-
wasn't an implication any which way
Sure.
ever. I'm the treasurer, so I'm focused on money most of the time, and that's just kind of expanded on my question. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I've got one more question. I'm not sure if it's going to be for Jody or for you, sir. But at one point, we had discussions around the extension of 8th Street to the north, across West Main. And the idea at the time that we had that conversation, I think it might have been at the Planning Commission, was to, make shared use of some existing driveways back there, but primarily to eliminate that curb cut on M43 for this development. Are there any agreements in place for if 8th Street were to come to fruition, that we could close that drive?
Well, the one slide I didn't put was showing how that existing driveway to West Main Street becomes a T, and then that driveway goes away, and that this area, I don't know if you can see my cursor, open space
Yes.
down here, that's where the street would come through, if 8th Street does connect,
Okay.
or extend to
So
the
8th
north
Street
someday.
extends north through West Main, then the entrance into the neighborhood
Yeah,
would be
and
there
then
through
we'll
that
tee
space.
off
And
with
we-
a hammerhead between those first 2 lots off of West Main.
Okay. Yes, all right, that's good. I want to see that happen in the future, so.
Now, is that in the legal documents?
It is incorporated in the master deed and the Exhibit B drawing, so that dash line that you see that Jody was kind of pointing to, that is the easement area.
Okay, and that's recognized by both you as the developer and the HOA?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
And
Good
before
questions.
you ask, you'll remember this was our first TIF brownfield for using that new tool in Michigan law. It's not a brownfield, but that's where this tool is buried in legislation, that 8 of these homes for a period of 11 years will be available as rentals for families that make 80 to 120% of area median income, which for a family of 4 is approximately 80 to $120,000, just happens to match. So not low-income households, it's just households in this housing economy that have a challenge finding homes that they can afford. So for 11 years, 4 4-bedrooms and 4 3-bedroom homes will be rent controlled. And that is monitored by the Kalamazoo County Brownfield Authority. They have to do annual reporting to say who are renting these homes, and they have to prove that they still qualify income-wise to live there.
And the rest will be sold and owner occupied.
Yep, at market rate.
Baby steps. Any further questions from the board? Okay, thank you. We have any board deliberation on this item?
I don't have anything further. If you're ready, I can make the motion.
If you're ready.
All right, I move to approve, excuse me, let me read this a second here. I move to approve Westridge Site Condominium Final Plan Step 3 with the presented conditions.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sikora. At this time, I will open it up for public comment. If there's anyone here wishing to make public comment on item number 11, now would be the time to do that. Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on? I'll reopen public comment. Go ahead.
I'm Sherry Fight. I live on 7th Street, and I was just, I lived all summer, and I've been hearing you're taking down of the forest. And I was wondering if there's now you're going to start building. Will you be just building all day when it's ever daylight, like you were, doing all the work to make it a neighborhood? Or will there be, like an end of the day at 5? Because it seemed like you guys were just going around the clock noise, is my
We do-
question.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope that you guys have a chance to connect and answer that question. We do have some timeframes around building hours that I believe are in our ordinances. So
Correct.
if building is happening outside of those hours, you can contact the township office and we'll send ordinance enforcement out to have a chat with them. Let's see, we have a motion. I'm going to close public comment again. We have a motion. Go ahead.
Thanks. So last week I spoke to you in regards to, on 1110, you guys put up a motion to change the amount of time businesses had to plow their snow. And then on 1126, it was passed. And then it was kind of funny, but not funny, that last week during our first big snowstorm, my mother lives on Drake, and her sidewalk wasn't completed for 72 hours. So, and I spoke to Sherry, and she was lovely, and you mentioned that you were gonna put in some parameters saying they have to have multiple complaints, making sure that it's not residential. And so I just want to put it into public comment of our conversation because I was hoping to see it on the agenda, and it wasn't. So I just want to say, first of all, thank you for being so lovely to me, because I was hot to trot. And also, I would just love that to be considered.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
And I will address that later.
Okay,
I
cool.
ha- Yes.
That's perfect.
Okay, I'm going to close public comment again on item number 11 regarding the Westridge Site condominium. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries, 5 with 2 absent. Congratulations. Thanks. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Detective Adam Kelm, and he is here to give us a report on the good work of the Sheriff's Office in Oshtemo.
Thank you for having me, Board, and thank you for Citizens of Oshtemo for having me as well. I'll try to keep this short and concise, but I'm going to give you guys some year numbers, followed by some case updates of some of the significant cases that I've investigated over the last year. The numbers, just keep in mind, we're in the beginning of December, so there's a reflection that there's a few numbers that will be a little bit shy of that, but if the trends and the averages tell me anything, the statements I make are still going to be correct. So we'll start with calls for service. If you guys aren't familiar, and if the crowd is not familiar with what a call for service is, that is anything that a police officer or a detective or anyone at the Sheriff's Department opens up themselves or is called in by citizens. So those are the two ways a calls for service can be opened up. So in 2024, we had 13,950 calls for service in Oshtemo, and in 2025, we had 17,072. I saw that, and that was a huge jump, so I had to look deeper. Why are we having so many calls for service? This is actually a really good thing. These calls for service are in part because of the action you guys have taken in adding on the community policing officers, both for a business district as well as for the residential, and they are opening up a ton more, for lack of a better term, a ton more community policing calls for service, as well as directed patrols and proactive policing, which is what we just weren't able to do due to the call volume and the manpower before that. So that was really refreshing to see, and then in turn, I saw that number and I was like, well, let's see how that had effect later on in some of these numbers, right? This proactive policing. So don't be alarmed by the 13,900 jumping to the 17,000. That's a lot of proactive policing going on there. The hottest months for calls or crime, I guess, in general, number one would be July. I don't think that comes as a surprise to anybody. People are out and about. It's busy. There's cookouts, there's fireworks calls, you name it. It's a busy time. Followed second by October, believe it or not, and then September and May would be our busiest time. So the year kind of shapes up January and December. If you almost think like a mountain, at less on the ends, it starts to heat up towards the middle there in the summer and then sizzle back down. So the top 5 calls overall are all non-criminal. So those would all be either a traffic-related thing, which is not criminal, or a suspicious occurrence, or a trouble with, which just means it was like an argument that never turned criminal. So I was glad to see that a crime, an actual criminal event, did not crack the top 5. However, I will go over which ones those are. Accidents, I know you guys covered accidents for me. I was like, I could skip that part, but accidents are the township's growing. There's no secret, right? The township is a popular township. The businesses are wanting to come in here. It's increasing traffic. That's the one number that went up in 2024. Our property damage accidents, now these include highway and off the highway roads, went from 675 in 2024 to 742 in 2025. So that went up, but however, we still have the rest of December to go, but right now the injury accidents are still less. So hopefully people are slowing down. We're at 125 for 2024, and we're only at 96 for the PIs. We did have 2 fatal accidents in 2024, and we have 4 fatal accidents in 2025. Now I'll jump back over to the crimes themselves. Violent crime right now was at 345, so the violent crime, this is a comprehensive violent crime. This could be an assault, a domestic violence, a robbery, a violent threat with a weapon, anything violent crime. 2024, that number was at 345, and currently we're at 335. So we'll see what the rest of the month brings, but we're kind of going to be steady on where we were at 2024. Do you have a question?
I do.
Jump in.
Just to, yeah, thank you. Just to
Yeah.
clear, so particularly on domestic violence,
Mm-hmm.
so if there's a call, if there's an argument,
Mm-hmm.
the couple needs to be separated, but, so does it only get called violent if somebody gets hit or injured, or is it all domestic violence calls that result in someone being removed?
Yes. That's a great question. Domestic violence is only if there's physical assault that occurs. It does not include emotional assault, verbal abuse, arguing, anything other than that, that would then be transitioned to a family fight or a trouble with subject in the non-criminal stats. Good question. We did have, I'll go over that one later. So the highest numbers are our proactive policing, as I like to call it. That would be our traffic stops, our community policing and crime prevention, as well as our directed patrols. We did 2,135 traffic stops in 2025, and we're not done yet, as opposed to the 1,199 traffic stops. This, again, is a reflection of the extra cops. They have time to make a traffic stop when they have help. I've experienced that when I was on the road. It's tough to make a traffic stop when you don't have time to do it. So I went over the non-criminal ones, and then here's our top three criminal complaints. Number one, you guys probably can guess it. We have a lot of businesses here. It's going to be our retail frauds. So that's any theft from an establishment or a business. 494 for that one. That is actually down 571 last year in 2024. And that, again, is due to the business district CPO. That guy is sitting on Meijer, he is sitting at Walmart, he is sitting at Target, and it's a less, I guess, enticing to commit crime when you have a cop sitting right out front. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that number, as it's a call that we get frequently here. And then retail fraud's number one, followed by assaults. So that's just simple assaults. That's pushing somebody, a fight between people that do not have a domestic relationship. That was at 274. And then the third one was just property crime of larceny. This does not include a home invasion or somebody breaking into your car. It's just thieving. Most likely crimes of opportunity, or somebody's cell phone left on your cart, somebody swipes it. It's the theft of property. That would be our third. I want to talk quickly, homicides also. I'll jump back to the violent one. That is not included in my violent crime assault. That is just assaults. Homicides, I have their own category. We were 1 in 2024, and we have had 2 in 2025. So the numbers are kind of 2000, if you want to go back even further, 2023, we've had 2. So those numbers haven't really spiked as far as actual homicides. We have had some violent crime spikes, however, not the ones that have resulted in death. This is one I know you guys always are curious to know, and I am as well. It's like 95.8 to be exact, but just over 95% of your Oshtemo Township deputies, myself, and CPOs are spent doing Oshtemo business. So it's just the other ones, I think we've talked about this. Usually what they're told is they can only break for emergencies and to back up officers for a 2-person call. Say it's a domestic and they need somebody in Texas Township, things like that. Any questions so far? I know I'm kind of just flying around here. So far, so good? Okay. We've had, inside of the violent crime one, we've had felonious assaults. We've had 53. I know guns and weapons are always a question, and our system does not break down a way to track it. If it's a felonious assault, it's the use of any weapon in a violent crime. And there's nothing I can do in our system to just say, just give me the gun ones. I want to see just ones other than me bringing up every single report and reading it and finding out which weapon that is. And that I just can't do that. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I just cannot do that. But inside of that, we've had 53 felonious assaults this year, which have involved some sort of weapon. That could be anything. It could be a bat, anything other than your physical weapons, your hands, fists, things like that. Yeah.
How does that compare to the previous? Do you have the previous numbers for that?
Yes, absolutely. 2024, we were at, give me 1 second. I have a bunch of pages printed off here. 2024, we were at 48, and then in 2023, we're at 57. So right in that same ballpark. I'm going to transition to some case updates here. This is just for the past year, and these are all cases that have been on my caseload, among others, but I just thought I'd bring up the ones that you guys may be questioning about. I'm going to start with both of our homicides that we've had. We had a homicide in late May and June. That suspect is in custody, and I've met with the prosecutor. He likes my case. He says it's going to be a good one to actually prosecute. So I have just submitted the case to him this week, and the charges will be issued, and he is incarcerated on other charges to make sure that he stays in jail for the remainder of his trial. So we have that case moving forward nicely. And then the second one happened in October over in Mount Royal. That one, the suspect is also in custody. I actually go to court next week. If there's some of these I can't really get into in detail, I just want to give you an update as to where that case is at. That one also is going well. I can say that. A lot of evidence in that one as well.
That was domestic violence, correct?
Correct. That was stemming from a domestic. Yep. September, I had a large scale, and this one's also still in the court process, so there's only so much I can talk about it. A large scale embezzlement. I was able to partner with the ATF, and as a result of this investigation, we did serve several search warrants throughout the community, not all in Oshtemo. They ended up, the embezzlement occurred in Oshtemo, but that left us to suspects in various areas. But we were able to recover 333 guns as a result of this investigation that were illegally obtained. So that was a huge. You do a search warrant, and then you just are like, I hope this brings what I thought it would bring, and this one did bring what I thought it would bring. So you never want to do one and come up with one and go, oh, that's not what we were looking for. So that one is still going, the court process. That one's going to be a long one, but that was a good result. We did have we've had several shootings that have not resulted in anybody getting hurt, thank goodness. The shooting we've had one at Nottingham Apartments. I was able to get that one prosecuted, the suspect located, and then the shooting at Bronco Liquor that happened in October. I was able, through community partners, videos, witnesses, able to get that suspect ID'd. And because of prior offenses, we are now charging him federally, so that one's going to stick. Couple of CSCs, one in Red Roof Inn, one in Concord Apartments. Both of those were just ugly cases, to say the least, in which I was able to actually get prosecuted. So I was happy about that. And then me personally, a big help from my position, and this has been, you guys have been encouraging of this, and you guys show that you were smart for doing that. I've been going to the crime reduction meetings with the city and township, and that collaboration, I go every Tuesday, has been huge, because they are now taking some of their teams, they have what are called CRT teams, and they try to go out and look for signs of people that might be illegally carrying weapons and prevent something from happening. And with the collaboration in identifying hotspots, they are now moving into Oshtemo to try to help prevent some of that. So those meetings have been huge. And currently I'm also onboarding with the FBI as their Violent Times Task Force TFO for this region, which also opened up the avenue for the ATF in the prior case. You get in the federal side of things, you start meeting with them once a month, and then you find out who's available to help. I wouldn't have had that avenue otherwise, so. Anything else you guys might, if you guys were on Stadium Drive, just in the past couple of weeks, there was a huge police presence and a drone and a bomb truck. That was a false alarm, just so you know. False scare, disgruntled customer, didn't say anything, just left a package to try to intimidate, I guess, but it was fake. It was like ankle weights wrapped around a pan. So it was not what we thought it was, so if you were around for that one, that's what that was. So that was the most recent. Any questions for me? Let me know. I did send the numbers.
Oh, thank you.
I emailed all the numbers. All these stats get broken down very detailed. You can look for each specific one. If I just stand up here and read every one, you guys would just get dizzy and fall asleep. I just tried to lump the ones together that were either violent in nature or non-criminal in nature. But, I mean, if you want to go from motorist assist, trespassing, larceny, 911 hangups, you can go right down the line. But if there's a number you guys were super curious about, I emailed you every month by month and then the totals for the whole year.
Okay. Thank you, Detective. Any questions for the detective?
I have one.
Yeah.
CIT training. Do any of our assigned assets have CIT training, and if so, what percentage?
I do not know the percentage. I know we have it, and we try to send almost all of our new guys to it. We had some new deputies sent out here that I'm almost positive have not had it yet because they're so new. But I can get that number and give it to you at the next time I come back.
I'd appreciate that.
I'm a big fan of that training.
It's
For the
incredible.
mental health side of things. If you're familiar, then you know how incredible it is.
Yeah, I worked with it in the Battle Creek area.
Okay.
With Summit Point.
Yeah.
It was a phenomenal program.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it would be a tremendous asset to our community, and it can very much save lives,
For
both
the-
officers and our community members.
Both ways, you're so right. And for those who aren't familiar, it's collaboration with some mental health professionals that help police interact on mental health crisis calls better and make themselves more familiar in how to react to certain mental health diagnoses and things like that.
Can you
It's
define the
fantastic.
acronym for us, please?
Yes, Crisis Intervention Team.
Okay.
CIT.
I've got a question for you, Detective Kelm.
Yeah.
You had mentioned there was like a special team that works through the county that.
CRT, the one from the
that-
city?
From the city, they're looking for folks illegally carrying?
Yep.
Is that, okay.
Among other things, but that's one of the things.
I wondered if you could provide a little more color on that. That's an interesting, I know it's probably a little bit of a secret, but I want to understand what that looks like, and I want to understand what impact it has here in
Sure.
this community, because we have had firearm violence, right, and murder.
100%.
We know significant areas where people are shooting at each other on a
Yeah.
semi-frequently basis. So
I
I
will-
want to see what impact they're having, and I want to understand that fine line of good cop work and like constitutional law, right?
Yeah, so I can tell you that, yeah, I can help clarify that for you without giving away too much. So they are a team, it's an undercover team, rightfully so. I'm not gonna catch anybody doing anything in a uniform that's right in front of me, not most of the time. So they're plain clothes, regular cars. You wouldn't know it you shouldn't know it if you're, going to the store, might be right next to them. But they do a lot of surveillance and working with, surveillance equipment. They don't do anything at homes. It's mostly public areas and they've gone through extensive training as far as how to spot somebody that may be carrying a weapon that can come from printing, which it shows, that's another word for showing on your clothes, clutching, how somebody might pat something that they have on them, or flat out just seeing it, or some of the interactions with other people. If you're known to be a weapons carrying offender, obviously that's going to bring some eyes on you if you're out in an area and may have a gun on you. So I can say, as far as like homes and people's residences and amendment rights, that's really not where they're looking. It's more of the open and public.
So essentially looking for folks that might be known to you,
Correct.
right? So we're not just setting up shop in random spots looking for
Correct.
any random person that might be exhibiting these behaviors. You're looking for specific people.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, they have a goal in mind. It's not just a random hope we get lucky.
Okay, and so then they would look for those types of behaviors, and that would be enough, I guess, I don't know if it's the right probable cause or whatever, to detain that individual and investigate further? Is that how
Yeah,
that
with
process works?
with the training that's involved, it's enough to establish probable cause with the officers that have that training.
Awesome. Thanks for the information, I appreciate it.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you for the update. I'm glad to see that the numbers are going pretty much in the right direction, all the extra effort that the board has put into helping that along. We really appreciate your update. You mentioned that you've sent us out a bunch of numbers?
I emailed
Because I haven't seen anything in months.
David.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, they're coming to you.
okay.
Months?
What's that?
Months worth?
Yeah, it's all in one. Yeah.
No, 1 month.
It's the whole year.
Okay.
The numbers that I sent were for the whole year.
Okay.
Sorry for
Are
any
you going to
confusion.
send something regularly, monthly? or
I
nothing?
can.
Well,
I haven't.
you used to, and so then, now what you're saying, you're,
Yeah,
sorry, but you're like spitting out a bunch of numbers at me, and I'm trying to remember, what,
Sure.
this year, that year, and it's like, it'd be nice if I had it in front of me.
I'll give you whatever you want.
No.
So let's backtrack a little bit, because it's not exactly, so what we get monthly is the calls for service, and those get sent out to you guys, to the board.
Oh, yeah. Captain Bishop sends those out on a regular basis.
And then quarterly, we ask quarterly for Detective Kelm to do a report that included more detailed data, particularly around, there were questions like specifically how frequently Oshtemo cars were getting called out of Oshtemo. So that is what we asked Detective Kelm to do for 2025. So I asked him to send his report in advance of the board meeting, and then he indicated he was going to he wasn't going to do it in the same PowerPoint slide that he had before, so I just haven't forwarded the raw data to the board yet.
I appreciate that, but I'll go back to, you say you send something out monthly from
Captain, you're talking about?
Captain Bishop,
Captain,
yeah.
yes.
I don't recall receiving anything in months.
I don't know
Am I
who's
not
on the
right
receiving
track?
I
list.
guess I'll have to double check and see those.
Okay, it doesn't seem like.
So
any
you guys are not receiving the monthly,
Call list?
yeah, calls for
numbers?
service list? They get posted on the website too. Yeah. But I can look, I'll have to make a note, Neil, to make sure you're getting those. Because I think I added the full board like at the beginning of the year, so, but I'll double check to make sure you're getting the monthly calls for service. But they do get posted on the website. Dusty puts them on the website as well. Okay, got a little sideways there. Are there any other questions for the detective? Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
I just wanted to point out the traffic stops. Jim, what is that? You call it the Copeland effect?
Yes, Officer Copeland.
He-
has-
Officer Copeland.
He's still out there.
Yeah.
There's no doubt. Thank
We
you, guys.
expected to see that number jump when he came back out to the township. Thank you, Detective. Okay, very good. Next, we have item 13, which is in your packet, a resolution establishing the poverty exemption guidelines for 2026. This is an action we need to take annually as a board. It's presented to you in the packet that mirrors what we have done in 2020, what we did for 2025 and 2024, that they are not strictly following the poverty guidelines established by the federal government, that we established our poverty guidelines based on
Minimum wage.
minimum wage, thank you. So I just want to be clear that that's the resolution that's in front of you.
Is the, oh, sorry.
Did this account for the, I think there's a change at the first of the year? for the
That's what I
minimum
was
wage?
asking.
Ye-
Does our table reflect the
Yes.
2026 numbers? Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I appreciate the board's work on this over the years. We've kind of, we first asked the question, can we do more? The answer was, nobody says we can't, so we're going to. And we did that, and then we found a way to tie it to minimum wage and essentially saying that we value work in the township, we value seniors and veterans, widows and widowers, and we will make it happen for our community on a year-to-year basis. So appreciate this. If there's no other discussion, I'd make the motion.
Support.
I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Chapman. Is there any public comment on this item regarding item number 15, a resolution establishing the poverty exemption guidelines? Seeing no public comment, I will close public comment. Is there any discussion on the motion?
This is one thing that I'm very proud that we've been able to do, and that it is linked to the increase in our minimum wage. I would like there to be more, but this, I think, is a wonderful thing, and it's probably one of the proudest things that I've ever voted for on this board. So to the board, thank you for the consideration of this. Nobody should lose their house, especially our elders, when they don't make enough. So I would encourage anybody listening to, if you are in a financial situation, to please apply for this.
This is a resolution. Attorney Porter, will you call the roll, please?
Sure. Trustee Chapman?
Yes.
Trustee Ford?
Yes.
Trustee Sikora?
Yes.
Treasurer
Yes.
and Township Supervisor?
Yes. See, it's not just my brain that
I know,
gets
that's-
tired. All right.
Resolution passes 5-0, 2 absent.
Thank you. Next, we have item 14, which is consideration to approve distribution of the proposed comprehensive master plan and master streets plan. Planning Director Seforia already spoke to you about why we have to, why this is the next step in the process, but do we have any questions for the Planning Director or Sarah from our? This would be taking the draft master plan and making it available for 63 days for public comment.
This is the same time that we would distribute it to our municipal neighbors as well, right? Okay. Yeah, no, I don't have any questions.
Okay.
I just want to make sure it's clear that there's still room with this for the 63-day public comment. So this is not a final, this is just our proposed draft. It is still open for comment from our community. But this went through the Planning Commission. We did look at this extensively. There were several areas where we made edits and took into consideration the public comments that were made to us. So I would encourage everybody to vote yes for this.
Yeah, thanks. And the public comment period is actually part of the state law. It's required. We must send it out for public comment. At this time, I will, well, I don't know, we don't have a motion yet, so I'm not sure if the board wants to continue deliberating.
I move to accept Planning Commission recommendation to commence 63-day public comment period on the draft Oshtemo 2045 Comprehensive Master Plan.
Support.
And draft Master Street Plan, sorry.
And support.
Okay, I have a motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Chapman. At this time, is there any public comment on item number 14, consideration to approve the distribution of the proposed comprehensive master plan and master streets plan? Seeing no public comment on this item, I will close public comment. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 5 with 2 absent. Next, we have item 15, which is our fourth quarter budget amendments. This is the time of year where department heads go through their budget, and there's, let me get down to the page here. Here we go. There's kind of 2 objectives with fourth quarter budget amendments. One is they should be looking at general ledger lines that are going to fall short and need some extra funding. But then the other piece of that is if there are general ledger lines in their budgets that are not going to be spent because projects that they thought were going to happen in 2025, then those funds are returned back to the fund in which they were originally funded from, whether that's, you know, the building fund, the general fund, the police fund. So those are returned back to those carryover items. So at this time, do any of the board members have any questions on the budget amendments?
Does this include the fire department memo?
Yes, it does. Thank you. I meant to say that, and I forgot, yes. The chief had already memoed his out before the sheet was in, so I wasn't going to make him do it twice.
No, I totally agree. I have no questions.
Okay.
Nobody questions?
No? I mean, any other questions? Okay, no?
I move to accept the budget amendments as presented.
Support.
A motion by trustee Ford, support by trustee Sakura. This time, I will open up an opportunity for public comment regarding the fourth quarter budget amendments. Do we have anyone present wishing to make comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-2. Next, we'll move to the added agenda item by trustee Sakura to include a discussion regarding the road commission. So I'll let you.
Sure. So
launch
a little
that.
background. Last week, I was looking at the Road Commission's website because I remember that we had some issues from Oshtemo Township that were going to be on that meeting. Unfortunately, I had missed the meeting, but I went to their website to find the agenda packet, and there are no agenda packets on their website. Apparently, after the meeting, I guess they're just gone. I don't know why they don't keep them on the website, which I found a little perplexing and certainly not very transparent. So I was on their website, and I was looking on the meeting schedule, agendas, and minutes page, hoping I would learn more information, and I found that at the bottom of the page, it says Board Township Joint Meetings. The Board of Road Commissioners of the County of Kalamazoo and staff meet with each township to review areas of mutual interest within the respective township. And I thought, I don't remember the last time we had a meeting. It's certainly been a while, and I think we should have a meeting, so that's, I think we should should be being proactive and reach out to them and ask them to arrange a meeting, because certainly we have a lot of things going on in Oshtemo that involving roads. And then I was also hoping that our commissioner was going to be here, because I wanted to ask him about the neighborhood roads fund and how that affects us. And well, he's not here, and I really couldn't find a lot of information. I know there's a new thing this year that the legislature enacted, and I was hoping we could learn a little bit more on how Oshtemo would be benefiting from those additional funds, et cetera, et cetera. So my goal here was to see if we can get something moving with them, since we're doing the comprehensive plan and the streets part of it, because they're obviously a big player with it, and we need to be more involved with them and find a way to work with them and get them to understand what we're trying to do and work with us. I did go back to their website, and I did find that they had posted for a meeting for next week about their 2026 budget, I believe it was, and proposed budget. The public hearing is next week on the 16th. And it's gotten me thinking that, do we follow what their budget has, what's proposed in it, and how it affects us? And do we ever weigh in on that sort of information for the benefit of our residents? And I approached Public Works Director Anna, and she had attended the meeting, and I kind of wanted to turn it over to her at this point to talk to us about what is included in that budget and why we aren't getting representation on a regular basis and why people aren't interested in that budget, if that's okay with you. Are you willing to do that? Okay.
I do attend their meetings every other week, is how they host them there online, so I usually attend virtually. I know the budget meeting, I think it's because of the room configuration, they don't record that one and have it online, so myself and the Public Works Project Manager, Zach Pearson, went in person so that we could follow along. I did the same thing last year because I did feel like there was a lot of information shared that did affect us, and so I try to keep apprised of those. It was a little hard to schedule this year because they were waiting for the road funding to come out, and so they did keep notifying us that the meeting got pushed back, and they're kind of in a crunch right now with their timing for their budget hearing. I also save their packets every week because I also know that they go away very quickly. So I do have all those. If anybody ever wanted them, they probably have my notes in them, but I'm not sure, I've never asked about that process. And I did send out my notes from the budget meeting. I don't know if they were all legible. There's a lot of acronyms that they use as well, so some of that might need to be, have a glossary to go with. But essentially what I understood from it is that one big piece of the new road funding is based on a marijuana tax that currently, I think, Jim, it's called an injunction, is what they filed. So they're not exactly sure that that will go through as planned. The other big piece is the neighborhood road fund, which you mentioned, and then a little bit of a change in the MTF, which is the Michigan Transportation Fund. And overall, the biggest changes were for counties, villages, and cities. And my understanding during the negotiations was that their frustration with MDOT, which is called the department in the law, is that they were putting a lot of mandates forward that weren't funded. So requiring bridge inspections, certain amount of frequency. And so a lot of the funding, a lot of the stipulations in the law are related to that. So for the first 5 years, there's a lot of extra funding for bridge repairs. What did not get materialized very well is this neighborhood road fund and how the money has to be spent, which we talk a lot about, plans being updated, times changing, so you have to have some level of ability to adjust for what you need, whether it's more maintenance or more reconstruction or more new construction. So I think by not being in the law, it gives different parts, different road commissions or different cities the ability to implement then their priorities and their plans. However, since we are kind of a subset, I'm going to call it, of the road commission, it's, I don't think always reflected in their CIP or their budgets. So I think it is good to continue to bring forward our projects, our goals. I try to do that without being the squeaky wheel. They let me speak at the budget hearing a few times, which I appreciated. And they have, I think it's hard sometimes when you have a new law like that and new funding to see how it's gonna be done in implementation. So some of their ideas that they had about what we call PAR funds, which is the current funding that we get through the gas tax, the road commission gets on our behalf through the gas tax, we have to match those dollar for dollar. That's in the state law. And so they want those funds and that match to be spent first before the neighborhood road funds. And my concern with that is that we overmatch every year by almost 50% of the PAR funds. And so I had suggested some changes that maybe we use the neighborhood road fund first, then the PAR funds, and then our match, or the match and the PAR kind of go together. And then the overmatch would come, because inevitably, if a project comes under budget and we are still using our match, our overmatch, I was concerned that we wouldn't get to use the neighborhood road funds that were allocated to us every year. So I did suggest maybe some restructuring of the order of those. And then it wasn't the right time to ask, but I was interested in how they decided the amount that should come. My understanding is that of the 9.6 million annually that they're going to get in the neighborhood road fund, 2.5 of it is going to be split by amongst the townships, which is what PAR is right now. PAR stands for participation. It doesn't really have an acronym. It's just the preventative maintenance we do every year, like chip seals or cutting back the high shoulders, those types of things.
But I think it's important when you're churning those numbers in your head too, that if the situation with the court regarding whether or not the marijuana tax can go into effect, that represents 50 or 60% of these road funds. So there's still a level of uncertainty about whether or not they're actually going to get the 9.8, or if it's going to be more like half of that or so.
Yep, and that's why they, in the presentation, they were using 2027, because they're expecting with the court cases that it might take a little bit of time to get sorted out, so they didn't want to commit to it starting right this year. And then I don't know if there was, I just sent a lot of notes. I mean, it was like a 3.5-hour meeting that we attended. For the amount of participation that we get and feedback we get, I know they get a lot of service requests, so maybe they see that as their public comment in a way, public feedback. So that might be something that they're considering, public feedback, but I think there's definitely an opportunity to continue the conversations, whether it's a joint meeting or attending their meetings.
And not all communities have the same situation as Oshtemo with regard to our PAR funds, our matching, and can we get access to these new dollars. There are some communities that are smaller that they can barely make the match. And so the road, there's kind of a couple of different groups of townships at the road commission table. Some represent larger communities like ours that are bigger, have more people, more miles of road. And then there's smaller communities who they barely can make their match. And so they're asking for their match to be released, and so that they can have access to those new dollars first, because their budgets are, it just is a different situation because they're just fewer people.
Who would be, or what township would be a larger township than us in regards to that comment?
Larger than us?
Well, you mentioned that there were townships that have more roads and more.
So I would say, generally speaking, Texas, Oshtemo, Kalamazoo Township, and Comstock have very similar types of needs when it comes to the road commission. And then the other smaller communities, have different needs. They have tractors on the road, and they want big, wide plowed roads. And you know? So it's, there's different interests around the table for the road commission, but I liked Anna's suggestion a lot because I think that idea provides more of a relief for more of the townships when it comes to road funding. If they utilize those funds in a different course, it benefits more townships, I think.
Yeah, I'd like to see us be more proactive with them, more pressure on them, because we do contribute a lot of money, and we're using our tax dollars to overfund PAR funds and things like that. I'm not sure that that's getting through to them. I think we could do more, and some of the funding issue, I think, comes back to that Act 51 whole thing of, there's other people taking most of the money or getting, that type of funding. We just got a grant from the county to do a study on transportation. It's like, well, we have a lot of needs here. Are we getting the good response and the good representation and the good information from the road commission? Because it seems like they're regularly pushing back on us on things they want to do, like putting up no parking signs, stuff like that. So I was just kind of like, the board could get together.
The joint
and have,
meeting is usually they come and do a presentation annually to the board from their perspective. It is not a joint meeting, although I think one year we had a few things to share back from the dais. But it wasn't a joint meeting. But I think that's a great idea, so we can absolutely work to get that on the calendar in 2026. I do want to, so the back and forth between the road commission and the township, I'll tell you, I watch the meetings virtually too, and they definitely know when people sign on. They know you're sitting there watching their meeting. So, that just being present, their agendas aren't usually very long, and they move very rapidly through their agenda, which sometimes is a surprise, very little deliberation. But I will say they did write us a letter of support when we pursued the county grant, and they worked with us to pursue a piece of property that we needed for our trail, and they also worked with us to prevent tree clearing along our park by taking on utility placement. So while it's not as robust, I think, as we'd like, I will say I think there's been some improvements.
I'd like to see us continue that, especially with our comprehensive plan. We're talking about trails and
No, we need
added
road
stuff,
changes.
so I think
We need road
yeah.
policy changes,
Yeah,
for sure.
So I'd like the board to take more of an action and be
Okay.
more forceful. That's just my feeling. Thank you for that information presentation.
Would you like to see, maybe the joint meeting be in place of like a work session ahead of one of our, if we can make that work? Okay. Sure. We can request it and have the joint meeting at the road commission too, if people are interested in doing a road trip to the road commission. Okay, well, just throwing it out there as an option. Yeah, their meeting room's nice. All right, thanks, Neil. All right, next we are on to item 16. I've written on this so much I can barely read it. This is a second opportunity for public comment, and so now is the time. If you wish to make any public comment, please feel free to approach the podium and share your thoughts or questions.
Bruce Gothi, M Avenue. Just a couple quick comments. Katie Myers doing environmental research for free. I will do proofreading for free. Item 12, sheriffs is misspelled. And I really appreciate the master plan presentation. That was really good. I'm excited about the plan. We live in the countryside character part of the township, and my wife spoke earlier. We really hope it's going to stay that way. I don't see room for a battery plant in there. So I will not proofread, and I know you guys have done so much on the master plan. I will read it, but I probably won't proofread it. But I'll put my free offer for proofreading up to you guys. So I'm standing here to echo like a previous comment. The woman who made that comment before has left tonight, but she talked about making Oshtemo as unfriendly a place for a battery system company to come in as possible. Love the master plan for that reason. Love the countryside character label. That's great. That fits with the previous plans. Again, like my wife talked about earlier, part of the wonderful reason that we chose to look for property and found it and love it. Driving down M, whether you live there or whether you grew up there or whether you visit there, the trees going over the entire road is just amazing. So I don't want to risk that. How do we make it unfriendly? I would just close by saying that I'm really in favor of, like, so much, Katie, everybody else, they're just learning so much. We're spending so much time researching. You guys are too. So let us be part of a committee that helps with the planning, see what we can do. Can we do sodium instead of lithium? Can we do other things? Can we say, hey, yeah, you can bring in whatever, let's call it sodium, or let's call it lithium, but it's got to be made here in Kalamazoo. So just ways to, can you source the lithium from the US? Can you source the lithium from wherever there is no lithium, as an example? Let's make it unfriendly. And let us help. Thank you.
Is there anyone else wishing to make public comment?
So just to echo what Bruce said, and quite a few people have said here tonight about tying in the master plan and all of this with the battery system. One of the slides I caught was the countryside residential, which is where the BES is being proposed. That this is areas characterized by single-lot residential development within a countryside setting, offering a tranquil living environment surrounded by natural features and open space. So take a moment to think about what we know about BES. Is that a natural feature, or are those giant semi-truck-sized trailers placed out in an open field? Not natural features. Does not match the master plan. And I think that's a big win right there, actually. And also that it's a tranquil living. I don't know if anyone listened at all to the developers that came into Comstock. They spoke very clearly about what BES looks like and how it operates. They have people that have to be there 24 hours a day. I can tell you the field where this BES is going is right outside my window. Right now, it's an open, quiet, tranquil space. It matches the master plan completely. Having workers there 24 hours a day, driving around, keeping an eye on things, this big old lit thing out in the middle of the field, that's not tranquil. When I go out in my backyard, I can hear sheep a half mile down the road. That's tranquil. I can hear, actually, we don't have a lot of neighborhood dogs barking, but once in a while you hear them and you just know your neighbors are out, and that is what it is. We also hear, there's the eagle right around the corner over by Bruce's. We hear that. That is really the coolest thing to hear. But those developers from Comstock, they talked about what you hear at their BES. There are sirens that go off that tells them, hey, I need to go pay attention to that. And how long would it take for someone to get there for that siren? And how often are we going to hear those? I understand that they have to be very detailed, and it's going to go off for the slightest thing, off by a degree or anything like that. I listen to the developers talk about that. I'm not ready to listen to that. And if I'm hearing sheep a half mile away, and this thing is 300 feet from my home, how far are those sirens going to carry and those alarms going to carry? It won't just be my house right next door. Think about everybody around there. If I can hear sheep that are quiet, they're nowhere near 55 decibels, and I know that that's what the rule is, and that 55 decibels is 24 hours a day of 55 decibels. That's not even going to count in the alarms going off on it. So it's time to really think about making this a workable ordinance to work it into our yards. No, I'm with Gary. It should not be workable. It should not be worked into our yards. It's time to stand up for it and say no. Use your master plan, use your zoning power, and use your police power. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak on public comment? Hello.
Hello. You know, I stepped up here tonight, I'm not a politician, okay? I was a business owner for 38 years. I served Oshtemo, and I was favored as max fire protection. Am I understanding, here's my question, one of my questions, I believe. Are we standing up here addressing you because you are choosing the financial benefits of this company coming into our community? Yes or no? I'm not seeing very many quick yeses or nos. So that means it's political. I'm looking for a clean question to ask you. I mean, why would we be here if we knew you were in alignment, in agreement with us? Because if you, especially the law, because I know the law enough to know that it's creative, and I've said this before to you, we can create this the way we choose. So where do you stand? Can you answer me that?
Public comment period is just for your comments to the board.
I don't get to ask questions?
You can ask questions, and later during board comment, people might direct their answers to your questions.
Sounds political to me.
This is how public
Yeah.
comment is run.
Okay. So I don't get to ask questions and get a clean yes or no. So I guess to just keep coming and make sure I take a stand and make sure I'm heard. Damn. Okay, that's life, huh? I raised 6 children, and in my family, yes and no meant something. I guess all I'll do then in my final opening or closing here is, you know, folks, we ain't a whole lot different. How can we help you help us? Teach us, because you hold a position. I can tell, especially with the woman in the middle here, I don't know your name, I apologize, but I know you matter. I'm talking to you.
Oh.
No, the next one, the blonde. Yes, you. You are very knowledgeable. I get that. To hold your position, no, thank you. I was a business owner for 38 years, and I don't want it no more. But I get that you do your job. You get informed. So please, help us. Find out how can we pull this off in an elegant, powerful way. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to make public comment? Okay, at this time, I will close public comment, and we will move into board member comments and committee updates. Mr. Ford, would you start us off, please?
Yes, no comments tonight, thank you.
Mr. Sikora?
Yes. Oshtemo Friends of the Parks is gearing up for next year's music in the park. And the Oshtemo Historical Society is hosting their holiday gathering this Sunday. Hopefully, everybody received an invitation. I know we're going to be doing committee assignments for the.
I'm going to address it.
Okay, I was going to ask, I would like to join the Building, Cemetery, and Grounds Committee, since we have several projects that seem to be stuck, and like to help move those forward. And I guess my only other I did not intend to say this, but I continually to be baffled when we sit up here and say, we don't want this in our community, and then every meeting, you come up here, people from the public come up and say, how do you feel about that? Why aren't you listening to us? We are listening to you, and I'm just baffled as to why you don't seem to get that message, even though we've said it numerous times. And you know, I don't know what else to say, so that's it for me. Thanks. Thank you.
Trustee Chapman?
Yes, first I'd like to apologize. I was not here at our last meeting. I did review the meeting online, but sometimes my balance between work and life doesn't go as well as planned, so I wanted to apologize for that. But next, I want to continue to thank the people who are here. A democracy requires input from the public, and whether that public comment sometimes is hurtful, it is, other times it's not, but any time that there is, it's valued, and I really appreciate it. And I appreciate those of you who've stayed to the end of this meeting, because whether you're getting a good view of what we do, and I appreciate that. You got to see our comprehensive study, our comprehensive plan, and I don't know of another way to inform other people. So as much as the best is a contentious issue in our community, I appreciate the organization, and I appreciate you folks being here and continuing to be here. I have said this before. I will do whatever I can to work within the system to try to help our community not have this here. It is complicated, and all of you who have read that understand that. And I don't think I'm alone in saying that, and I'll keep saying it. You know, I keep reading, I keep looking at other ordinances that other communities have done, and I keep trying to do my homework. But you guys know that my kids are in the back, though they're not listening, which is normal for kids. What I do, I often weigh by how does it affect them? Is it a benefit to our community? Is it a cost to our community? So I weigh those out in everything I do. First, I look at my kids. How does this benefit them? How does this harm them? I take that approach with almost everything. And those of you who know me, I'm a financial stickler. I want to make sure your money is being used to the best that we can. So to all of you out there, I thank you for being here, and I thank you for standing up for what you believe in and giving us your voices.
Treasurer Bushka.
If you recall the order in your questions asked, it's no, and most likely because it's a fight with the state, for me. I highly appreciate the research that has been done. I'm learning things at every meeting, things that I'm not being able to find myself. I am here full-time and deep in taxes at the moment, so I haven't researched a whole lot in the last 2 weeks. So anything that is brought here, I do appreciate from whoever has to give and share it with me. And that's where I'm at with it, so.
Thanks, Treasurer. Let me see. There's a few things I'd like to share. Yes, thank you all for coming. Thank you for sharing your information. I want to agree with you. What started out in this conversation that was a project that could be harmful to our community has been vastly politicized, and that's unfortunate. It's my mission as a supervisor that the information that comes out from the township remains balanced. So it is a fine line to make sure that we are all on the same page with where we are regards of what we desire to see for this project or an ordinance or whatever, and try to keep the politics out of it and think about what is the best for the community. That being said, I think everyone on this board in one way, shape, or other has said out loud more than once that they were not in favor of supporting this project. I really like the comments that the master plan kind of underscores that, and very, very good thoughts there. I know there was I think it was Ms. Hicks was here earlier. She had some comments regarding the snow removal. I'll follow up with Ms. Hicks directly. But it's our intention to address that through policy, and so we are going to put a policy with that ordinance so that it's very clear how that snow removal ordinance will be used out in the community. I think with that, I want to just share with the board, Neil, it was my intention to bring this up, is I've been working with, it's that time of year, it's the end of the year, so we will be meeting on December 23rd, and it's going to be a packed agenda. We have a lot of housekeeping items to do, and I am doing research through the MTA, just kind of trying to learn what different types of meeting options are out there. You know, obviously, this is a public meeting forum. We've been asked repeatedly for a different kind of forum. So just trying to get some ideas about how that might look and work well. And, you know, we can't meet with a quorum and, you know, all that stuff. So look for more information on that. That went sideways on me too. So the last thing is I've been digging into all of the committees, and so I'll be sending out a memo to the staff tomorrow, but you'll also get it. Please send all the committees, whether they're internal or external committees that you serve on for the township, so that we can provide that information out in the public in the last packet. We've been looking for oaths of office, so we found some areas where people need to have their oaths of office updated, which is kind of some of the, some of the things that's taken longer because you got to check those dates. So look for more information on that. So, I mean, for example, Michael, if your oath of office as liaison to the Planning Commission was expiring at the end of the year, then we would need to make sure we took care of that. So that actually takes a long time to like plow through all those things. So look for more information on that, but we will be sharing what professional organizations and committees the staff shares on, what the board shares on, and we will be doing our final appointments at the year end, plus a whole bunch of other fun stuff, December 23rd. So with that, I will call this meeting adjourned, and everyone have a great rest of your night.